What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Emporium's Hulu original series review of Candy. This series is created by Veith and Nick Antosca. Now, before we begin, if you like this video, awesome. Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. So Candy is this limited series that's premiering over 5 nights, Monday through Friday of the release date. It's a true story of a character named Candy Montgomery, who's played by Jessica Biel. And it tells the story of her involvement in the murder of this woman named Betty Gore, who of course is played by Melanie Lynskey, and also her involvement with an affair that she was having with Betty Gore's husband, played by of course Pablo Schreiber. And it basically tells the events of what led up to the murder, what caused the murder, and basically the kind of affair that was involved with, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, it does show the trial, which of course, if you know the story at all, Candy Montgomery was of course acquitted of the murder charges because of her defense, which was that she killed her in self-defense and for situation, but there was a lot of controversy behind it. And this is a literally kind of adaptation of what exactly happened in a fictionalized sense, as well as doing true facts and stuff like that, as these kind of limited series slash murder mysteries type of things do. So, of course, with a lot of these series, I knew nothing about this trial. I knew nothing about this situation of Candy Montgomery killing Betty Gore and then the acquittal. I knew nothing about what was going on because, like a lot of these stories, after so many years, they get kind of thrown under the rug and you never really hear about it. But I watched the trailer. I found it really interesting. Hulu has been known for putting out some really interesting limited series or documentaries. We, of course, had Dopesick, which I really enjoyed. I also found out there's another version of the story of Candy Montgomery and Betty Gore's story that's being put out by like HBO or something like that. So there's a lot of interest and intrigue into this production for something that happened in 1980. So it's really interesting when they kind of do that, because you get like different characters and different actors playing the same part, but you get very widely different types of stories. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that this is being put out 5 consecutive nights. It could have been done like a week by week thing, so it allow you to digest the series and allow you to get a perspective on what you're watching. But Hulu does that sometimes. They'll put it out consecutive nights to kind of bolster their subscriber base and stuff like that, which is fine. It is what it is. And Hulu, after putting out Dopesick, I give them a lot of credit, and I actually have a lot of respect for what they do. But the question really remains: does this limited series work? Is it worth watching? Even if you don't know anything, does it actually allow you to kind of learn things about the situation, the trial? Like, overall, how does it work as a limited series? And for the most part, I really did enjoy this series. I think this is actually Jessica Biel's best performance ever in anything I've ever watched. I know she's done other things that have been pretty good, but she really kind of envelops the character of Candy Montgomery and her situation. She is definitely a mother in a community with a bunch of other women, and very much that soccer mom type mentality. And she is like almost like the alpha of the pack in a lot of respects. She's a woman that bolsters a lot of respect amongst the other women in the group, and she's a woman that just has a lot going for her. So when she decides to get into the affair with Alan Gore's character, it makes a lot of sense because she is bored. She doesn't feel like her husband is really treating her very well, and it really does get into the nuts and bolts of her character in a nutshell, of how she went from this situation to the eventual murder of Betty Gore to her eventual conclusion in the trial. And it allows this individual to really kind of get some depth, and Jessica Biel just kind of runs with it, and she's really good in it. And then on top of everything, you have Melanie Lynskey as Betty Gore, and we see her side, so it allows her character to kind of allows us to realize what kind of individual she is. She's very flawed in her views and how she does like administrate stuff when it comes to becoming a mother. And you really get a good sense, due to Melanie Lynskey's performance, of just the nature of everything that is being bolstered and just how our worldview is being played out. The fact that they went both sides and allowed the story to become kind of neutral, even though it's kind of shifted towards Candy Montgomery's character, it really does become a benefit for the storytelling aspects, because you get both sides. A lot of times when it comes to limited series, especially stuff that's based on like a trial, there's usually like a one-sided narrative. And I really do think the showrunners and the directors and the writers really did a nice job of allowing these two individuals to have some interesting take to how the eventual conclusion comes forward. It was very nice to see. And on top of that, you see this world that's around them, which is in Texas. You see both sides when it comes to the husbands. You know, I think Pablo Schreiber does a really nice job in this series as the Alan Gore. I just think overall this series as a whole just does a really interesting job of, you know, telling a story that you may not know, like myself, and I really think it does it in a pretty effective way for 5 episodes. I think the only problem though is the trial stuff is interesting and intriguing because of course Dan Crowder, who ran for Texas governor, was of course the litigation or the lawyer for Candy Montgomery, and I like that stuff. I like what is going on in the courtroom. I like his, you know, Dan Crowder's problems with the judge and feeling like he's being, you know, one-sided with the whole situation. But it becomes a really interesting character study in like how court proceedings happen. Yes, it's a little Hollywoodized and when it comes to that type of storytelling. But the problem, like I said, is it happens in the last episode, so you really don't get a justification of how the story plays out. I mean, you can kind of, if you think about it, the story is in a nutshell being played out like the characters in the courtroom are telling the story of what exactly happened, but you don't get that sense if you don't think about it. If you're watching the story, you feel like they're all telling all this story, this back history, like what happens in the murder and the trial, which happens at the end. But it'd been kind of cool to have the trial kind of, you know, which has been done before, being kind of sparsed through in the series to kind of get a justification of how the trial went. It would have made the trial much less condensed, I guess you could say. It would have been more spread out, more even, and it becomes a problem because you get a little confused. They travel through time a lot in this series when they like had the affair, and then you see kind of the ramifications of that, and like I said, you eventually see what happens with the murder. And there's a lot of stuff playing out in effects, and they do try to add a little bit of the courtroom scenes at the very end of each episode, but I just kind of wish they added more to it throughout the episode. Like for instance, like when they bring Candy Montgomery onto the on the stand and have her kind of tell her story and have, you know, all these things play out, but it doesn't really do that, which is kind of an issue in my own book. Like I said, they spread it to just the very end of the series, which I mean is fine for what it's worth because the series is kind of riveting to watch and the characters are very well played out and very interesting, though it does get into some, you know, very tropey territory, which I know they kind of probably propped up for effect and stuff like that, because it is, you know, they do Hollywoodize it in a lot of respects. A lot of the stuff may not have actually happened and a lot of characters may have been put together, but for the most part they try to be as authentic as possible. But the world is, you know, very 70s and 80s to look at. The way people dress, the fact that The Empire Strikes Back was playing at the time, which gives a real good setting. And like I said, the characters are actually really well played out and dimensional. I just wish that some of the courtroom stuff had been worked into there. So, but overall, in the end, to kind of conclude this review, I really did enjoy this 5-part series. I thought it was fascinating, entertaining. I thought like I said, Jessica Biel and Melanie Lynskey and of course Pablo Schreiber are really good in this series. I thought, you know, everybody played their parts and they did it really well. And I think this is a series worth watching. I think even though it does fall in some traps and stuff you've seen before, the fact that it is a true story and it presents it in a really interesting fashion really does make the series kind of good. So overall, I enjoyed it. Definitely worth a check out if you're interested in these types of stories. So with that said, that is going to be my take on the Hulu series Candy. Thank you so much for watching. Comments below. Are you interested in seeing this series? What is your overall take on it? All that good stuff. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.